Chapter 118. Black Wedding. 4. Stage cleared. It meant that this world, the tale of Sormwin Academy, had officially become a part of our tower. Hunters could now come and go from this world. However, they of course could not enter freely. They needed to be judged by the great guilds. For example, a regular hunter needed a permit to enter the Ejim Empire. What I mean is, pop. Shortly after the stage clearing was announced, a white light flashed. Pop. Pop. Light burst from all over the wedding hall. It was the sight of hunters being transported to the floor. Death King. No, Kim Gongja. You. As the lights faded, I saw some familiar faces. How could you get married without consulting us? Some people could travel between floors without a permit. For example, the heads of the great guilds. One of them, the rank 2 Hunter Black Dragon Master, was flushed red. I'm against this wedding. Death King is a hunter representing our tower. Obviously, the wedding should be held on the first floor of our tower, the city of Babylon, not here. We have to broadcast it all over the world. It's invalid. This wedding totally doesn't count. The Black Dragon Master wasn't the only one with something to say. Ahem. Death King. The rank 1 hunter. The Sword Saint cleared his throat. First of all, congratulations on clearing the stage. Truthfully, it was an extremely fast-paced romance. No, I know it's rude to talk about this here, but as an old man, I'd like to say one thing. Don't. The Sword Saint closed his mouth. These days, he seemed to be recovering from his boomer mindset. There was an uproar while you were challenging this stage. Why in the world did you two fall in love? Despite everything, Death King, I stood firmly on your side. Only those who have experienced love at first sight can understand. You needn't worry. I understand. Trust me, I'll placate the Black Dragon Master. Then, for some reason, the Crusader gruffly put her nose in the air. Her glance seemed to imply, I understand everything about your love. I didn't know what she meant. I turned to Raviel. Raviel was expressionless. At first glance, that is. I could understand her seemingly expressionless look because I loved her. Raviel was watching the Black Dragon Master and company with great interest. Her red eyes were overflowing with curiosity. Gongja. My love. Yes, my love. There seems to be a lot of people you need to introduce to me. Yeah. It was a little late, but it was time for her to meet my family. I did think about having her meet everyone before the marriage, but the culture here was different. In the Empire, it was common for families to be formally introduced to each other after their union. Isn't it natural? Raviel tilted her head. Many family members live far away from the main residence. The wedding ceremony is what invites and gathers them together. On the night after the wedding ceremony, the families of the bride and groom finally greet each other. Oh. That's certainly true. I was immediately convinced. Well, yeah. Marriage was also a union between families. Hunters like us, who fled from the outside world, can't really talk about family, but the Empire was different. There was a greater importance on the family than on the individual. And this wedding ceremony didn't just symbolize a union of families. A marriage of nations. No, it was a marriage of worlds. Representing the Empire was Raviel. Representing the tower was me. Since it was our marriage. Ho ho. The Grand Chamberlain, my adoptive father, maintained his wry smile. I never imagined such an occasion. I've already sent so many messenger birds to the Emperor today. I don't know what to tell him now. Yes. This was unexpected for us as well, said the Black Dragon Master. She was extremely calm, as if she hadn't been agitated a few moments ago. The powerful people of the Empire and the tower sat side by side at a table, guarded against each other but both taken aback. But rather than a misfortune, it was a stroke of luck. Lord Chamberlain, it is fortunate that our first meeting with you is during a wedding. Then, they leaped over the wariness and embarrassment and continued to talk. You're saying that your people come from another world, correct? It's a strange affair that is difficult enough to explain to His Majesty, let alone his subjects. Yes, you're right. I understand well your empire's situation. The Black Dragon Master nodded. She seemed familiar with acting in a diplomatic capacity. She knew well how to walk the line between competency and politeness. However, Lord Chamberlain must have seen the invasion of beings from other worlds. If a person denies the truth, then one day the truth will deny the person. I am concerned about that future. You speak truly. Thank you. Lord Chamberlain, what we must do from now is to reach a common understanding. For 5 years, 10, 20, or perhaps even more. Both sides spoke calmly. Raviel had control over the Empire's people, and I had the complete trust of the tower's top rankers. Our marriage was of great fortune for both sides. It's normally difficult to physically gather people of power from opposite sides, but the wedding between Raviel and me took care of that arduous task from the get-go. Our negotiations couldn't have had a better start than this. I was sitting in the seats of honor with Raviel. Reaching under the table, I held Raviel's hand tightly. Raviel naturally intertwined her fingers with mine. That one gesture made me relax. The night was long. The stars were bright. The candlelight on the table flickered, and between the candles, people spoke. Suddenly, everything was beautiful. Raviel. Speak. A quiet whisper. There are a few others I want to introduce to you. Other than those here? Yes. Then we should go see them. Raviel stood up from her seat. The Empire's people immediately stopped talking. The night is still long. Continue speaking with the others. I'm briefly leaving to meet my wife's people. No one could stop Raviel from leaving. As expected of the Duchess of Ivantia. If going when one wanted was proof of one's power, then my husband had unparalleled power here. I took Raviel to where the demonic cult members were sitting. Oh. Young master. You're a newlywed now. The sword demon raised his glass and laughed gleefully. All of the cult members were drunk from the alcohol served at the wedding. When they saw me, they tried to stand up to greet us, but I waved my hand. The cultists then bowed in their seated positions. Congratulations! Many blessings to you, young master. The alcohol here tastes unique and delicious. Long live the demonic cult. Phew! You two really look good together. The wedding hall became noisy at once. It couldn't be helped with 1,000 demonic cult members causing a ruckus. I smiled wryly. Sword demon. Come here. Yes? The sword demon blinked, still holding a wine glass. He looked dopey, like he didn't expect to be called out by me. The drunk cultists around him howled in laughter. Look at that. I knew he'd get scolded by the young master one day. He forgets to speak politely whenever the young master calls. Fool. Kick his ass, young master. Yuh. The sword demon put down his glass and hesitantly approached us. His brashness from when he beheaded the general of the Ghost Legion had completely disappeared. He shrank in on himself like a child who had done something wrong. Sorry. Young master. I never had much learning, so I don't know how to speak politely very well. But in my mind, I still look up to young master. The sword demon who laid out many excuses. I put my hand on his shoulder. Raviel. Then, I said to my bride. This is the sword demon. He's a subordinate of my master. My master was the head of a group called the demonic sect. She selected 4 outstanding people from among the cult and called them the 4 demon lords. The sword demon is one of them. Oh ho. Raviel glanced at the sword demon. The sword demon squirmed. A simple man. Your speech is rough, and your attitude is poor. My wife's master must not have judged a person for their speech or attitude. Since she found you from a rough and poor place, you must be someone precious and noble. I am Raviel Ivantia. I am a duchess of the empire and the spouse of the one you call young master. I hope we'll get along well. Why yes. Let's get along. I turned my head. Demon Lord Woliong. Come here. Someone stood up from the center of the group. He bowed his head politely. Yes, young master. A strange silence settled over the night air. The small talk that had been happening while they drank had died down. I called each of the 4 demon lords, one by one, and each time, the demon lord was very polite. Then, I called the next person I wanted to introduce. Preta. Yes, my lord. Come here. Yes. Preta, who had been mixed among the cultists, stood up. Perhaps she had been waiting for my summons as she had tidied her outfit. This child's name is Preta. I said. Preta was originally born as a nameless monster. She was a doppelganger. She could imitate whatever she ate. Preta ate beasts such as frogs and snakes at first, but accidentally, she came to eat humans. Then, Preta quietly kept her head down. Sometimes, her shoulders would shake a little. The strange silence persisted. In introducing their lives, I also introduced mine. One person told another about his life. Softly. Under the night sky. It was a sacred act in itself. Right. I unfastened the holy sword from my waist holster. This is shiny. Shiny? Yes. She had a more lofty name at first. She was tricked by a bad man and was sealed into a sword. Her real name, the guardian goddess, seemed like a waste, so I just nicknamed her Shiny. Since, you know, she's shiny. Very shiny. I see. Raviel laughed a little. My wife's naming sense is rather severe. Merciless. If it were me, I would at least have called her Hui. 1. Shiny swears allegiance to the warrior's partner. Shiny was quick to change loyalties. And. You can't see him here, but I have a friend. Bei Hurayong. Raviel, you may never see him. You can't meet him either. My friend's circumstances are a bit peculiar. He can't show himself to others. My partner. His way of speaking is totally vulgar.
Yeah.
It's about 30 times worse than the sword demon. But he's really strong. Incredibly strong. He was the first to teach me the sword, and he taught me to use aura as well. Oh ho. He's an important person. Bei Hurayong was silent. He was wearing a shabby martial arts uniform. His arms were folded. Instead of running his mouth as usual, Behurayung silently looked at Raviel and me. Without this friend, I don't think I could have endured my time alone. Is that so? Yes. Then, I must express my gratitude to that friend. Raviel bowed her head to the empty space in which she could see nothing. Meeting Gongja made me happy. If this friend hadn't helped Gongja, my happiness would never have come to be. Thank you for everything you've done for Gongja so he could be here now. Behurayung slowly opened his mouth.
Yeah.
Please take care of this crazy kid. I spoke for him. If that friend heard Raviel's words, he would have said to take care of me because I'm nuts. You have a wonderful friend. I took a deep breath. Raviel. This is my everything. Everything I love. Everyone who opened and entered the door to my heart. My family. Raviel held my hand firmly. My love. Yes. Let's dance. There was an intense passion in Raviel's eyes. I hesitated. However, when Raviel looked at me like this, wanting to do something with me, I couldn't say no. I've never danced properly before. There must be something of the butler's memories remaining. Please refer to them. What if I accidentally step on your foot? I'll kill myself. Instead of answering, Raviel moved. She bent down and took off her black shoes. A moment later, she stepped barefoot onto the grass and dirt of the lawn. White feet. She only took off her shoes, but she seemed as light as the wind. Come here. I hesitantly took off my white shoes and socks. Raviel immediately took my hand and led me away. 1 step. 2 steps. Raviel stepped on the petals that fell on the lawn on her tiptoes. The white petals of the magnolias and cherry blossoms became whiter with every step. Nobody made a sound. No music flowed. There wasn't even a chandelier like the one that decorated the ballroom, only moonlight that fell like frost in the flower garden. A ball for just the two of us. See? I smiled as I followed Raviel's steps. I'm a mess. I already stepped on your foot 3 times. Dancing really isn't my thing. Are you going to kill me with shame? It's fine. I just need to step on your feet that many times. As soon as she said so, Raviel stepped on my foot. Her weight smoothly came onto mine. Raviel laughed playfully. Look. We're even. Here was a smile that she only showed to me in this world. My red jewel. My heart. My music. The chandelier of the moon cast our shadows on the ground. Our dance wasn't about stepping on each other's feet. It was about not letting go of our hands until the end, even if we did step on the other's foot. No matter what misfortune happened, we laughed a little and looked at each other's faces. I belonged to Raviel alone. Raviel was mine alone. That was right. We danced. Every spot the moonlight reached was Raviel's and my ballroom. So long as there were 2 of us, any world could be our stage. On this day, we became married. Our next story would begin on a stage a little higher than the last. Chapter 119. Hero. 1. It had been 2 weeks since I introduced my family to Raviel. A lot had happened since then. We met with the Emperor and made several secret treaties between the Empire and the Tower. However, putting aside this turbulent history, I first did what I had to do. Because I still had an epilogue to complete. Shiny. Shiny replies, yes, warrior. In Raviel's and my bedroom, a sword rested on the large bed. Eat up. The thing that had once torn away my lover's heart. The sword that locked up this world in an eternal 10-day cycle. The prayer sword. My holy sword spat out white light toward that wicked thing. The guardian goddess absorbs a piece of herself. White light touched the prayer sword. Shake! Immediately, a red aura arose from the prayer sword. The bloody red mist shot out from the blade like it was trying to fight back the white light that threatened to devour it. The prayer sword is horrified. The idol sword tries to persuade her sister. The white light and red fog tussled. However, the mist was a little thicker. As the red was about to overpower the white, another color spilled out of the holy sword. The compassion sword also tries to persuade her sister. Black wastewater. The second fragment of the holy sword that I collected joined the fight. The tables turned. The white light swallowed the mist, as did the black water. The red mist was overtaken in an instant. The prayer sword is shocked by the betrayal of her sisters. The prayer sword says that she cannot serve a master other than ClassRevivalHunter. I opened my mouth. Do you know why ClassRevivalHunter is killing constellations? The red mist paused. The mist did not have eyes, but I felt like we were facing off as I stared at the mist. There was a cool tension between us. At first, I didn't get it at all. I only understood after my experiences in this world. Those who are called constellations try to invade and take over other worlds and rule those places depending on their personal preferences with no consideration to the natives' opinions. His method was different, but it was the same for the corner librarian. The librarian didn't wish to rule the world but to observe the characters. He designated the people who were living their lives as characters. He was a voyeur to their stories. And, same as the other constellations, the librarian watched over the worlds to suit his taste. In a word, it's public harm. It was violence. ClassRevivalHunter was once an emperor. He must have thought deeply. Rather than coveting the constellation's powers, I would rather kill them. I think that was his plan. This world probably had a constellation too, but ClassRevivalHunter killed them. But your original wielder made a mistake. I drew the tip of the sword. When a constellation dies in a world, another is born. Look at it. On the continent where the guardian goddess was sealed, the devil king of fall rain appeared. In this world, the silver-plated heart arose. Frankly, your master isn't solving problems. He's causing bigger ones. ClassRevivalHunter is. If I'm wrong, tell me no. The sword wrapped in the scarlet mist was silent. Maybe I don't have as much experience as your master. Sure. Your master may have suffered a great deal, known a lot more than me, and, after much thought and effort, taken on the work of being the constellation killer. But I can tell you something for certain. I spoke sincerely. If you've done something wrong, you need to take responsibility for it until the end. There's a world that was put into an eternal winter because your master deigned to kill a constellation. The people of that world were dishonored as they became moving corpses. Even if ClassRevivalHunter acted with noble intentions, that can't be forgiven. Take responsibility. Then, the red mist accumulated in one place. After a while, the mist took on a human shape. A child whose whole body was stained with blood. My name is Prayer. The sword in the form of a red child opened her mouth. My original role is to listen to people's prayers. ClassRevivalHunter had made a wish. I will kill all the constellations so that nobody will ever be manipulated by them again. His prayer is noble. It is significant. It is immense. So I entrusted my existence to ClassRevivalHunter. What prayer do you have, human? I looked down at the child. To not run away from anything. Then, I continued, I won't turn away from what happens before me. I won't make excuses. I'll take responsibility for what I say and do. I won't look over things that are wrong and claim that's just how the world works. As long as I live and my sword can cut.
Ah.
The red child looked up into the air. The road to hell is always paved with good intentions. All I can do is bless your good intentions and join you in hell. It was a deep lament. My ability is to test. Those whose hearts are pierced by me will be tested on their wishes. Were their wishes sincere? Would they sacrifice everything for their wish? My cursed ability is to make others give up their wishes. The child became a red mist again and dissipated. Our new master. May you prosper in hell for eternity. SRRK. The mist was sucked into the holy sword. The existence of the guardian goddess has become more pronounced. Finally, I exhaled the breath I was holding. Whew. With this, I was pretty much done with what I had to do before moving to the next stage. The Empire and the Tower still had much to discuss, but that was in the realm of politics. My wife was more active in this area than I was. 1. Is it over? When I came out of the bedroom, Raviel was waiting at the door. One of her maids was accompanying her. Yes, Raviel. It's all done. No constellations or fragments can bother this world anymore, at least not for a while. 3 apostles allied to attack us, but they failed miserably. Don't worry. Not even fools will invade here after seeing your work. The maid standing next to Raviel made an unpleasant expression. It was natural. The maid who was accompanying Raviel was none other than the Lady of the Golden Silk, one of the invaders. It sounds like you're saying this for me to hear, Your Excellency. Am I mistaken? Muttered the Lady of the Golden Silk. To the others, she was the young lady who was possessed by a cunning devil and attacked this world with a hammer. She was made out to be a victim, not a perpetrator. However, the rumor that she had been possessed by a devil tarnished her honor, so she ended up serving Raviel to cleanse her name for the time being. It must have been painful for the Lady of the Golden Silk, who wanted to marry the prince, to act this way. Well, the Lady of the Golden Silk also seemed to be seriously contemplating marriage now. Your ears are sharp. I did speak for you to hear. Continue regretting your foolishness. Once you've repented enough, I will use my connections with the church to restore your reputation. Until then, keep your mouth shut and work for us.
Ugh.
The Lady of the Golden Silk, wearing a maid uniform, bit her lip. I felt sorry, but she could never rebel against us. She would immediately disappear if I stopped using the 100 Ghosts reincarnation. This was the ending I reached. Looking at the scene, I slowly opened my mouth. I'm going to the next stage now, Raviel. I guess you must. Raviel's eyes met mine. I would like to follow you to visit another world, but the Empire needs me. Just as I have my work, you have your own. Do as you will, Gongja, and come back to me. If you feel tired and want to be comforted, come back anytime. I'll be here. Yes. But after thinking a bit, I spoke. The 20th floor of the tower is my land. I want to build a house for the 2 of us there. That is, if you want it, Raviel. Oh ho? Indeed. Will that become our family home in the future? In a new home, instead of being the Duchess of Ivantia, I can just be your companion. Raviel smiled. She read my mind like it was natural. I'll look forward to it. Raviel took out a handkerchief from her bosom. A silver thread was embroidered over the white cloth. She opened my hand and softly put the handkerchief in it. This is the handkerchief I usually carry with me. My perfume has been placed on it semi-permanently using the power of magic. Perfume? It's that one. Raviel stood on her tiptoes and whispered in my ear. The lily scent I used when you first fell for me. Whenever you try to calm yourself, you touch the hilt of your dagger. It's a horrid habit. Stop it. Instead, whenever you're upset, smell the scent on my handkerchief.
Ah.
Gongja. Staying as you are shouldn't be an unhappy thing. It isn't painful. I wish it wasn't. Your love and memories of me. I want happiness to help you stay yourself. Will you grant my wish? Yes. I swallowed the swelling, choking feeling in my heart. Yes. I promise I will, Raviel. I love you. I love you. My lips met with Raviel's. I hoped this moment would last forever. But soon, our shadows parted ways. Transmit, I said. Light covered my sight. When I next blinked, I was already in the Grand Library. I saw the hunters who had been waiting for me, having returned to the library in advance. Come here, Death King. Their representative, the Black Dragon Master, opened her mouth. I could tell that her mood was off as soon as I saw her. Her words may have been friendly, but there was a crease in her eyebrows. Is something wrong? It would be nice if I could tell you nothing was wrong, but... The Black Dragon Master sighed.
Yeah.
Something happened. It's quite serious, too. Then again, something was weird here. Only top rankers were around, including the Black Dragon Master. Normally, other hunters like the alchemist would be around. Wait a moment. Where are the other hunters? They were shooed away because there's something we need to talk about between us. What we say now is of a secretive nature. Well, our conversation will also be broadcast live to the tower, but... The Black Dragon Master's voice grew quieter and quieter. Ominously. Just what in the world is going on? Aha. The person who answered was not the Black Dragon Master but the heretic questioner. He had taken off the dress he wore on the last stage and was wearing his normal priest garbs. To sum it up quickly, it's like this. Death King. You've been too successful. What? Think about it. In The Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon, you showed off your humble and noble side toward your master. Your appreciation of the martial arts and devotion to your sect members made countless hunters' hearts thump. After The Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon was cleared, thousands of martial artists from the outside world entered the tower every day for a while. The Crusader took over and said, someone spread the live broadcast in the tower to the outside world. Well, we actually allowed it to happen. Death King, your success is fantastic for advertising. There was no reason to refuse. But even so... The Count held her fan. We may have been just a tad bit too easygoing. Too easygoing? I asked. Your character. No, the impact of your status as an icon. What the heck? I looked at my colleagues, unable to understand their logic. Everyone looked so serious. The heretic questioner, who was always smiling even in serious situations, responded. 113,654 people. What? That's the number of people who entered our tower yesterday alone. I couldn't understand the heretic questioner's words. After a while, I realized that he said yesterday alone. Yesterday, in just one day? Yes. About that many people enter the tower when there is war outside or a country is destroyed. But no wars have occurred recently except for small-scale, local battles. Ahaha. No country fell, either. Even though it was peaceful, the amount of entries to the tower increased. This is a flyer from the outside world. The Count handed me a flyer. My face was painted like a presidential election poster. Below it, the following sentences were written. Plus. The King of Death shall be our king. Head over to Utopia. Plus. I slowly opened my mouth. The King of Death can't be. Of course, it's your title. It's referring to Death King. This sort of flyer is being distributed in countless areas. Just so you don't misunderstand, we're definitely not behind this. People from the outside world are making these on their own. I didn't know how to react. I don't know if you've guessed it from the flyer, but... The Crusader smiled wryly. These days, flyers are rarely used for advertisement. You understand, Death King? You only use flyers when you want to reach people who don't use the internet. What do you mean? People who live in areas without good internet access. Poor people in poor countries. Areas of conflict. War zones. A myriad of poor people and refugees are entering the tower. They're flocking to the Tower of Babel, abandoning their countries and citizenship, leaving behind their lives in the outside world. Like we had done, the Crusader said. The venomous snake crossed his arms. Those people. They're wearing black hats and shirts as they enter the tower. Saying that they want to enter the demonic sect. To be more precise, they just saw you and came in. It's not just the poor and the refugees, said the Black Dragon Master. People with great assets came in as well. Scientists, sociologists, and professors who come along, saying, I will help create a new society in the tower. Kim Gongja. The masters of the great guilds looked at me. You didn't just conquer the stages. Not from the outside world's perspective. People everywhere want a hero. The courage to face challenges. Respect for humans. A commitment to love. As it goes, nothing excites people more than a virtuous hero who puts his life at stake. The Black Dragon Master pulled out her smartphone and showed me her screen. You have become our banner. On the screen was the hologram that always floated at the center square in Babylon. Plus. Rank 1. Sword Saint. Rank 2. Death King. Rank 3. Black Dragon Master. Rank 4. Heretic Questioner. Rank 5. Count. Rank 6. Venomous Snake. Rank 7. Babel's Linguist. Rank 8. Kwangyak Messenger. Rank 9. Crusader. Plus. Second place in the Hunter rankings. That was the new position the tower put me at. My heart was beating like crazy. Death King. The Black Dragon Master took back her phone and looked straight at me. She was serious. More than ever before. Are you ready to become our king? Chapter 120. Hero. 2. King. The tip of my lips rose up. People instinctively smile when they encounter something unexpected. I looked around. Black Dragon Master, Heretic Questioner, Venomous Snake, Crusader, and Count. I met their eyes, one after the other. You're joking, right? Of course, said the Black Dragon Master. I wanted her to continue and say, of course I'm joking. But the words that came from her lips were the complete opposite of my expectations. Of course, we can't make a new monarchy right now. Death King, you may not know this, but we've devoted our heart and soul into the tower's current system. We struggled through many failures and setbacks for this. We're each trying to work the ideals of anarchy in our own ways. Aha! The guilds in the tower are actually a kind of combination. That's enough. Talking about that won't help, Death King. The Crusader cut off the heretic questioner. The king is a mere symbol. However, symbols have real power. Kim Gongja. You already have real power. 100,000 people entered the tower in one day after seeing your name and believing in your character. Not even the Black Dragon Master has accomplished this before. You're the first. There's no precedent for any hunter having this kind of power. It was only then when I realized the Crusader was more worked up than usual. The Crusader was always calm and poised. The only time she raised her voice was during the 12th floor incident, which nobody remembered now. She had only acted like this when everyone was suspicious of each other and trying to kill each other. But the Crusader was excited now. It wasn't just her. Other than the heretic questioner, all of the great guild leaders were strangely heated. They were struggling to keep their excitement in check, but I could see their bare emotions in their gazes. We wouldn't have been able to handle this population boom before. Food had been scarce. But the way we are now, we have enough land and trade routes. It will be difficult, but we can meet the demand for food. Above all, we have experience, said the Count. I'm not bragging, but all of the guild masters here have experienced turmoil. The Crusader is a nomad from a ruined nation. The Black Dragon Master is an orphan from a country ravaged by a civil war, and the heretic questioner and the venomous snake have been living with mafia and gangs since they were young. I was born in the poorest village in the world. Everyone here is an expert of troubled times. That's right, affirmed the Black Dragon Master. In this world, only we can deal with this crisis. No country, no nation in the outside world can do it. But we can. We've overcome things worse than this. I gulped. I could clearly feel the guildmaster's excitement. They had abandoned the old world and fled to the new world. And though they reached the peak of this new world, the guildmasters hadn't given up on their desire to build a new society. Death King. We can do it. A dream. Let's do what no country in the outside world could do. Somewhere that's a bit better. Let's make a world where the people who were kicked away by the outside world can breathe and live a little. An ideal. We know well what a fallen society is like. So, we can make one that won't fall. The Crusader, who fled from a country in South America. We know what divides people and causes wars. So, we can prevent civil wars. The Black Dragon Master, who survived bloody conflicts in the Black Sea. We know what violence is. So we can make use of violence. The heretic questioner, raised by the mafia in Eastern Europe. The venomous snake, who grew up in the triads in central China. We know what it means to be poor, so we can overcome poverty. The Count, who was born in a trashy town in India. Let's show them, Death King, said the Black Dragon Master. Let's show the people that we can create a slightly better world. Then, I realized. It was me who had changed the guild masters. This never happened in the previous world. In the world where the Flame Emperor was ranked first. The tower was just a tower. A refuge for the hopeless. A paradise for criminals and death row prisoners. I had never seen the Black Dragon Master's sparkling eyes as she talked about a new world. Not in a magazine picture. Not in any video interviews. The Black Dragon always had cold eyes. But she changed because of me. My heart pounded. Please. The world that Master dreamed of. Please tell me what I have to do. I could change the world. Sure.
Yeah.
I thought you would ask that. The Black Dragon Master smiled gently. Her gaze portrayed her faith in me. Continue acting as you are. That's the most important thing. Getting used to politics is something we can teach you step by step. Ahaha. If you look at it sideways, it's like we're monopolizing the real power while Death King plays a figurehead. Well, I won't deny that. But I also want to hand over this position to someone else as soon as I can. Do you know how many violent crimes happen each day? Oh, there are frequent crimes under the name of religion. In the last 10 days, 21 terror attacks have been prevented before they occurred. Let's stop talking about this. It'll just make us miserable. The most important thing is for me to stay as myself. If so. I looked around. Library Director Nim. Librarian. Where are you? My voice echoed through the huge library. Then, a small shadow peeped his head from behind a bookshelf the size of a house. It had been a while since I saw the constellation, the corner librarian. Geez, what are you doing back there? Get over here. But. I mean. The librarian's lips trembled. How can an insignificant creature like I dare to show myself before the esteemed Death King? Your eyes will be dirted. Please treat me like I don't exist, as if I'm a speck of dust floating in the library. Don't act so crazy. Just come here.
The
librarian floated helplessly. His long sleeves were fluttering like the ears of a sad Maltese puppy. Speak, please. Please take out a book for our next stage. Which apocalypse do you want? A fairy tale. The librarian shut his mouth tightly. Unconcerned, I said, among the apocalypses offered to us, there's only one fairy tale. Please hand it over. Indeed, there's a strange connection. The librarian's expression changed. His eyes were half open, trembling with appreciation as they often did when he saw me. All right. Here is the apocalypse you talked about. One of the books floating around the librarian flew to him. When the librarian opened the cover, information about the apocalypse showed up. Plus. Me and our scapegoat. Genre, fairy tale. Difficulty level, A-class. Player limit, 2 or more. The serialization is currently suspended. Introduction: this world's humanity had succeeded in creating a utopia. But a special power source was required to maintain the utopia. The power source needed were the screams of suffering from an innocent child who has committed no crimes. Though it was a pity, for the perfect happiness of 17 million people, one innocent should bear with it, right? Thanks to meticulously developed torture techniques and life-saving treatments, about 5 years' worth of screams were able to be extracted from each child. Such efficiency! Reason for discontinuation: 118,000 years had passed since the creation of Utopia. Eventually, all of the innocent children were used up. The Utopia, which lost its power source, came to an end. Plus. Right. This was the apocalypse. I had been keeping it in mind since I first saw it. Everyone, I'd like to choose this apocalypse for our next stage. Huh? The guild masters looked around. The Black Dragon Master tilted her head. A fairy tale? Sorry, Death King, but that fairy tale world won't give us resources or more territory. The difficulty is also a class. Do we have to challenge it? Yes, we do. I looked into the Black Dragon Master's eyes. Up until now, we've been picking the apocalypses based on how useful the worlds will be to the tower. The martial arts archives in The Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon will strengthen the tower's fighting power. Exchanges with the science fiction world will greatly improve our scientific power. The apocalypses we've challenged so far were as follows. Plus. 21st floor, the Great Library of All Things. 22nd floor, Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon, genre, martial arts, fusion. 23rd floor, Saga of the Iron Knights in Space, genre, sci-fi. 24th floor, Dawn Mountain Cabin Journal, genre, mystery, history. 25th floor, The Tale of Sormwin Academy, genre, romance. 26th floor, Festival City Apocalypse, genre, sports. 27th floor, Bakery Street Epic, genre, cooking, business management. Plus. I stayed in the Empire for half a month after completing The Tale of Sormwin Academy. During that time, the other hunters cleared the 26th and 27th floors. All hunters with titles were working hard to clear the stages. Now, the 28th, 29th, and 30th floors were left. But I had my own plans. If things happened as I wanted, this 28th floor would basically be our last apocalypse. After ruminating on that plan, I opened my mouth. It isn't necessarily just technology and resources that are useful. Heretic Inquisitor, you said that the tower's population is growing by nearly 100,000 people a day. Yes. What we need now is a focal point. It's unity. The heretic questioner blinked. I agree, but isn't that why we're supporting you? You're the focal point of the tower. We'll provide you with a suitable position soon. We can make you a great position like Guild Alliance Leader or Council Leader. I shook my head. Guild Alliance Leader. Some people might be charmed by the title. On the outside, it would look like I had the most authority in the tower. Such tricks won't do. Oh. Why do you say it's a trick? Everyone here, not just me, needs to garner the people's support. I'm not really the one who controls the tower right now. It's all of you. Only when you all gain the people's support will the tower unite as one. The library became quiet. Then, the heretic questioner smiled. You have a point. But did you know? Death King, we have original sin. We've done tremendous things to stop the chaos in the tower. And we continue to do them. It's a shame, but we have absolutely no moral legitimacy. The heretic questioner is right, muttered the Black Dragon Master. We've done too much to act as symbols. It's all right if you act well from now on. Please, act well. We're a team. I can't solve religious issues like the heretic questioner. I can't deal with gang troubles like the venomous snake either. I can't match you in politics, economics, or security. I'm not being humble. It's the truth. However, I'll never betray you. You can trust me. I was confident I could bring these talented people together. If there is a problem between you, I will mediate. If you need to talk, I'll create a place for conversation. Trust me. Let's become one team. The guild masters were silent. I held up the fairy tale, me and our scapegoat. As you said, this apocalypse doesn't have a great resource within it. There isn't any fertile land, either. But there is an unacceptable sacrifice in here. Everyone. We cannot tolerate this sort of sacrifice. Let's show the world what kind of people we are by targeting this world. That was right. This was a declaration of intent. A declaration that would show how we would manage the tower. We would not turn a blind eye to someone being sacrificed. We would face them. And if the difficulties couldn't be resolved, we would break through, head on. We would show the world that we were such people. That's how we can gain trust and ask the inhabitants of the tower to believe in us. I see. A trust in the administration. Yes. I looked at the guild masters one by one. Fortunately, this apocalypse allows 2 or more players. Black Dragon Master. Heretic Questioner. Count. Venomous Snake. Crusader. The most brilliant, all-star group in this tower. My colleagues. Please fight by my side. All of us would participate in this apocalypse. Chapter 121. Hero. 3. After hearing my request, my colleagues didn't say anything for a long time. Maybe they were looking back at the lives they led. Their days that were stained with purges. You're asking us to take the harder path, really? After a long period of silence, the Black Dragon Master opened her mouth. Her voice was nearly lamentful. People can become skillful with practice. If they try, they can become a moral person too. They can become powerful by working hard. But it's nearly impossible for someone to be competent, moral, and powerful. It's simply too hard. It's truly a difficult path. Someone told me that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I held out my hand to the guild masters. If so, the road to heaven must be paved with countless sins. There would be countless people who become jealous of us. There would also be many who make trouble for fun. People who want power would fight, and those who come to agitate the tower's inhabitants would appear. Such people existed. Many of them. Evil is both common and strong. But that isn't a reason for us to give up. Let's show a slightly better world to the people who have forsaken the outside world to come here. I pushed out my hand again. It wasn't so that we could shake hands. It was a pose for multiple people to join their hands at once. Like a sports team cheering together before a game, I quietly extended my right hand toward the guild masters. Aha! While the Black Dragon Master hesitated, the Heretic Questioner reached out his hand first. Touch. The Heretic Questioner's palm joined the back of my hand. I don't mind. It's appealing if the ones in charge have moral legitimacy. And Death King is the only one who can gild us with morality. It'll be a waste to miss this opportunity. Ahem. The venomous snake put his hand on top. I'm now the successor to the righteous sect. The old man is always nagging me to think about the sect's mindset or whatever when he sees me. Well, I guess I'll participate out of respect for my master who's staying behind. The Crusader laid her hand on top. I've been using my skill since before this conversation began. Lie detection. Nobody here has let false words escape their mouths. And more than that, Kim Gongja. I know that you ran through the Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon and the Tale of Sormwin Academy with an upright heart. I believe in your truthful attitude, I believe in your true love, and above all else, in your character. All revolutions fail. But I will at least devote my life and soul to make our revolution be remembered as the most spectacular failure. The Count extended her hand. I can't keep up with the romantic's tale. But whatever. I'm just following the crowd. I don't want my precious stocks to fall. Let's do our best, everyone. Lastly. The Black Dragon Master hesitatingly put her hand on top. I can't promise you much. I can't guarantee our success. I can't throw away the tools I've used so far. But... all right. Black eyes swept over us. If we fail, if someone among us must die, I will be the first to do so. I'll promise you that. Then I'll also make you a promise. I smiled. I won't let anybody here die. no matter where. No matter when. You're making an absurd promise, you. The Black Dragon Master smiled bitterly. However, she did not take back her hand. The 6 of us. Our hands were gathered. Very well. The librarian smiled as he swam through the air. Death King. Black Dragon Master. Heretic Questioner. Count. Venomous Snake. Crusader. I designate these 6 as characters of me and our scapegoat. When you open your eyes, you'll be in a world that met its discontinuation at its height. Be careful. It's very different from the apocalypses you've encountered so far. The librarian opened the book. Poof! Light flowed from the pages of the apocalypse and onto our overlapping hands. The difficulty of this apocalypse is A-class. The light wrapped around us. Unlike last time, I can't bestow many blessings upon you. The constellation of this apocalypse is alive. Alive and reigning over the world. You will enter as a sort of invading army in this apocalypse. Naturally, the constellation will be hostile. The librarian laughed lightly. Death King, the constellation will treat you, especially, as a foe. A foe. Before I could understand what the librarian meant, our vision was completely covered with light. Actually, I didn't have to try to understand what the librarian's words meant. As the world turned white, before we even opened our eyes to greet the new world. The evangelist of everlasting happiness detects invaders. A cutting voice flickered through our brains. The voice continued like a tidal wave or an urgent siren, ringing one after the other. The evangelist of everlasting happiness issues you a warning. The evangelist of everlasting happiness intends to eradicate the invaders. The evangelist of everlasting happiness declares war on you. Me and our scapegoat. The evangelist of everlasting happiness abhors you. This fairy tale was ruled by the constellation who invaded Raviol's world. In a story with a hero and a demon king, the demon king is always careless. The demon king never reveals his full power at the start. He sends off the weaklings to fight the hero. The hero, who is weak at the start of the story, grows by defeating increasingly strong opponents. Until the hero finally confronts the demon king. I've been waiting. The constellation of this fairy tale was different. How dare you oppose my master? This constellation bared its venomous teeth to us from the beginning. The first in our party to detect the crisis was my holy sword. Shiny detects the presence of her sister sword. The hilt of the sword shivered at my waist as if to announce the crisis. Though our visions weren't clear yet, Shiny hastily shouted. Shiny confirms that the properties of the evangelist of everlasting happiness matches the properties of the sacrifice sword. The evangelist of everlasting happiness is the 4th sister sword left by Lafanta Ejim, sacrifice. As soon as Shiny's warning finished, my eyesight returned. A blue sky. Our party was falling through the sky. We had been floating shortly after being put into this world, so we hadn't realized it. However, our bodies were quickly dragged down by gravity. Whoosh! The wind brushing our foreheads. Blood rushing to our heads. We were plummeting down. At that moment, the heretic questioner grabbed my forearm. The wind was pushing our party apart, but he had caught me in a moment. The heretic questioner squeezed my waist tightly with his legs. Then, he made a hand sign. Death King, hold my right foot. Don't ever let go. Sacred technique, transmission. I clung onto the heretic questioner's right foot as he had instructed. The next moment, the heretic questioner had moved to the Black Dragon Master's side. Black Dragon Master. Yes. Hold out your leg. The Black Dragon Master grabbed the heretic questioner's left foot like it was obvious. Aha! The heretic questioner's laughter mixed into the wind. I thought that the sound of his laughter made the gravity that threatened to crush us feel lighter. Sacred technique, transmission. The heretic questioner, in turn, brought in the Count, the Crusader, and the venomous snake. We clung onto the heretic questioner like baby pigs to a mama pig. In this situation, the venomous snake seemed very upset and yelled. Hey! Why am I the last one? It's because you're the most useless one here. Chen Mumun Master. Our power won't be affected even if you're gone. You. Shh! *TTY priest. With 5 people clinging to him, the heretic questioner couldn't make his hand signs. He had no space. He had no time. Even now, the ground was getting closer and closer. Good job, kid. However, the Black Dragon Master shouted as if she had only been waiting for all of us to be gathered. Everyone, say you consent to my skill. Quick. Hurry. Yes. I agree. Got it. I agree. Fuck, sure. Teleport. 6 people moved together. An instantaneous teleportation. Unlike the heretic questioner, who had to form hand signs, the Black Dragon Master's skill could be activated with just contact. It was the skill she had used to oppose the Devil King of Fall Rain. Thus, we safely landed on the ground. I won't let you go. But the ground was not safe at all. Sing, my apostles. 10,000. Maybe 100,000. Maybe millions. In the horizon stood those in the shape of children. Each of them was the same as the apostle who invaded Raviol's world. Possibly millions of children surrounded us in layers. La. And they sang. La, la. Lu. Lala. La. A million a cappella tunes, all at once. 100,000 low notes, 100,000 high notes, and 100,000 whistles overlapped. The children danced in a circle like they were happy. With each step, the ground reverberated. Boom. Thud. Boom. La. This was the A-class difficulty apocalypse. A world that saw us as the enemy, was not careless, and tried to destroy us with all its might from the very beginning. Q. The party hurriedly pulled up their auras. However, it wasn't enough. We were facing an all-out attack less than a minute after being transmitted to this apocalypse. A wave of happy dreams, difficult to handle with just one's aura, violently struck us. Count, shouted the heretic questioner. Give me money! Damn it, my bank account is going to break. Yes. It'll be better than breaking your head. A 15% interest. Compounding. I won't take it unless it's free. What? That's ridicule. Nisha, the Crusader yelled. At first, I didn't know what Nisha was referring to. I realized it when I saw the Crusader's gaze, directed at the Count. Nisha was the Count's real name. Shut up and take out your wallet. I'll kill you. Ugh. Damn it. Withdraw, boundless. The Count took out a pouch. The pouch had a snail pattern on it. She undid the gold ribbon to open the pouch and flipped it upside down. Clink, clink. Countless gold coins spilled onto the floor. Change owner. Heretic questioner. Ahaha, thank you. The heretic questioner quickly made a hand sign. Sacred technique, devotion. A light burst from his hands. The white light encased the pile of gold coins, which became dust and disappeared. In its stead, the aura around us became unbelievably strengthened. Sacred transfer, aura reinforcement and mental attack immunity. Reinforcement targets: Count, Heretic Questioner, Death King, Black Dragon Master, Crusader, Venomous Snake. Reinforcement time: uncertain. Gold will grab our hands. Technique complete. He-ew. Hiya. My money. The Count screamed. Gold coins continued to pour out of her pouch, and as soon as they did, they became light and evaporated without a trace. She seemed so shocked that cat ears popped out of her head. My money. Naya. My lifeblood. My money, which is more precious than blood. Aha. Should I donate my blood? I don't need it. If I go bankrupt, the tower will also go bankrupt. You got it? If you don't want to eat dog food for breakfast tomorrow, go and attack already. Falling from the sky. A million songs. We succeeded in escaping the incessant crises. Only now could we look at the main culprit who attacked our party. TSK. Do you have enough skill to devour idol, compassion, and prayer? Attempting to hide the senses and attack. The constellation floated in the air. Like the prayer sword, it was red all over. However, it was slightly darker than the prayer sword. The little child covered in dark red blood trembled in the air. But it's no use. Leader of the traitors. My loyalty to Lafanta Ejim shall never break. I will kill you and ensure you don't get in my master's path. Sure enough. I grabbed the hilt of the holy sword and pulled it out. Raviel became a constellation by stabbing her heart with a fragment of the guardian goddess. This meant that even a fragment had the ability to make a constellation. If so, then it would be possible for the fragment itself to become a new constellation. The sacrifice sword evolved from being a fragment of the guardian goddess to the evangelist of eternal happiness. Apostles. Eliminate them. And the sacrifice sword was still loyal to Lafanta Ejim. Unlike her sisters who had been helplessly absorbed by me, the sacrifice sword had been amassing her power. She had ambushed me as if she had been expecting me to come. That was what had happened thus far. I glared straight ahead, gripping the holy sword. Literally hundreds of thousands of troops thronged on all sides. Instead of yelling, the apostles sang, and instead of stabbing us, they danced. However, their songs were more threatening than any shout, their dance deadlier than any spear or blade. Our forces were 6 people. The enemy was innumerable. Count Nim. What is it? You still have a lot left in your wallet, right? This was the best moment for me to act. What? Please shoot this stage up big time. As the Count blinked, I quietly chanted. 100 Ghosts Reincarnation. Chapter 122. Utopia. 1. My favorite skill. The exact ability of the 100 Ghosts Reincarnation is this. Plus. 100 Ghosts Reincarnation. Rank, SSS. Effects, you can summon those whom you've killed yourself. The dead cannot use their abilities from when they were alive. However, the dead can keep their memories and appearances from their lives if you so desire. If not, they will just be summoned as monsters. However, you can only summon them once a week. Plus. There was an important segment here. The part that said the dead can keep their memories and appearances from their life if I so desire. In other words, if I didn't want them to, the dead would be summoned as monsters without their memories and former appearances. Just like now. Gwao! My shadows fanned out. White bones sprouted from the shadows that were laid out like linoleum floors. 5,000 skeletons. It had been a while, but I wasn't pleased to see them. Weren't they proof of my deaths? But I need these guys now. The apostles of the evangelist of everlasting happiness swarmed, singing a song. La, lula, lu. Lala. The tune they were singing was a song that buried listeners in their happy memories. It was an attack difficult for even warriors with mental training to resist. The members of the demonic sect had also fallen quickly at the wedding hall. However, Guau! The skeletons howled, unaffected as usual. The charge was composed of only 5,000 skeletons. They fiercely ran at the millions of enemies. It wasn't because the skeletons were particularly brave or resistant against mental attacks. Aha! I see. Bei Hurayong spoke from my side. The mental attack doesn't work because they have no memories. That was right. The songs of the apostles of the evangelist of everlasting happiness were certainly powerful. However, this power only affected people with memories. To the summoned beings with no memories at all, the songs were no different than ordinary songs. La. Kijigik. Keek. And ordinary songs caused no damage. The skeletons slaughtered the apostles. With daggers, teeth, and skeleton hands, they were stabbed, bitten, and scratched. Each time, the apostles were swept away. In terms of physical strength, the apostles were totally incomparable. Yuk! The constellation who watched the battle from above bit her lips. Songs were roaring from all sides, but every word the constellation spoke pierced my ears. The sound was probably transmitted directly to my head. This useless rebellion. You'll be overpowered by numbers anyway. I admitted it easily. You're right. That certainly will happen. Even if the apostles had no physical attacking power, the numbers were what they were. There was a fearsome force in sheer quantity. That was why the evangelist of everlasting happiness ambushed us with such confidence. But you've already taught us how to fight you. What? She must have read my lips since the constellation reacted. The numbers are a secondary issue. Every army has its weakness. The moment I learned that you don't know pain and only spread happiness. The skeletons were being overwhelmed by the crowd. However, they had not been defeated yet. They would last for a short time, 1 or 2 minutes at the least. And that short time was just the moment we needed. The way to destroy you was revealed. I held the holy sword tightly. Black Dragon Master. Speak loudly. I can't hear you well because of the song. All right. Please launch the mirrors. I amplified the volume of my voice with aura. The Black Dragon Master stepped up beside me. She heard my request and had already put up 6 mirrors around us. Done. But what do you want me to do with the mirrors? Do you remember when you and I fought the Devil King of Fall Rain? When the Devil King shot the beams, you weakened their strength by reflecting them on mirrors several times. At the same time, you strengthened our attacks. We'll fight the same way. The Black Dragon Master understood my aim. You want to shoot your aura like a beam? That's fine, but do you have confidence that you can generate a lot like the Devil King of Fall Rain did? If it's not strong enough, it won't matter if the attack is reflected in my mirror. Don't worry about the strength. Please just spread it as widely as you can. I don't know what you're thinking, but... All right. Let's try it. The mirrors soared into the air. North, south, east, west. When light shone on a mirror, it was immediately reflected onto the other mirrors, covering the field. This will be enough. I nodded. Then, I poured my aura on the hilt of the sword. Whoosh! Aura, red like blood, blazed as it climbed up the blade. Though I can't push ahead with sheer force like Preta or split the world with enlightenment like Master. If these apostles were my enemies. If these guys were my allies. I could fully use an unparalleled skill. If I swing my sword only out of hunger, what will happen? Because this was the martial arts I inherited from her. You will be able to cut a man who has never starved in one blow. Therefore, you can fight half of the righteous sect members with one maneuver. The apostles who know only happiness could never rival me. I swung my sword at the mirror lifted by the Black Dragon Master. Infernal Heaven's demonic art. First form. Sword of starvation. The enemy forces ruptured. The hunger of the infernal heavens spewed through the red aura. The demonic art bounced off of the mirrors. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times, 6. With each bounce, the red aura sectioned the field in halves. Chwak! My attack was very weak compared to the Devil Kings. Compared to Masters, it was unbelievably laughable. However, nonetheless, the apostles of happiness perished even if the red aura barely grazed past them. What? Flinch. The constellation looked down at the battlefield in astonishment. Of course she was dumbfounded. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands of apostles had literally evaporated with a single blow. The plane had been infested with apostles mere moments ago, but the places where the red aura scratched were barren. Black Dragon Master. Get ready for the next wave. Of course, I had no intention of being satisfied with one attack. Please keep rotating the mirrors. What in the world? I see. That constellation's pawns and your martial arts are complete opposites. Despite her surprise, the Black Dragon Master skillfully adjusted the positions of the mirrors. She realized that my attack would destroy the enemies with just a touch, regardless of my output. Therefore, it was important to spread the attack out as much as possible. Don't mind me and keep attacking. Death King. I'll take care of the mirrors. The mirrors flashed about in the air. The Black Dragon Master was someone who took immediate action after determining what was important. Chwak! I believed in the Black Dragon Master's words and struck again. I was just using a familiar art to me, but tens of thousands of enemy troops were wiped out. Ranks 2 and 3. The Black Dragon Master and my combo attack one-sidedly ravaged the constellation's forces. Ahaha. Amazing. It's really amazing. The heretic questioner was performing a sacred technique to shield us from the enemy's mental attacks. Finish it as soon as you can. 2 of my emergency funds have already been depleted. The Count poured out her astronomical assets to back up the heretic questioner. Venomous snake. The enemies have a gap there. Deal with it. The Crusader oversaw the whole battlefield and gave orders in real time. Okay. Damn, the demonic sect is stealing all the glory. The enemies that couldn't be stopped by the skeletons were taken care of by the venomous snake. We can do it. Just 6 people. If we work together, we're invincible. However, the 6 of us overpowered the military of a whole world. Look. The inhabitants of the tower would be gathered in the square now, watching our military force. Those present would broadcast or record this scene to show the outside world. The sight of just 6 people defeating 1,000,000 apostles. Look. Go wild. Witness that nothing is impossible in the tower. Watch carefully, the world doesn't pressure us, we pressure it. And have hope. You. The constellation's face wrinkled. You vicious outsiders. What right do you have to invade the utopia I created? There is no misfortune in this world. No unhappy memories exist. The constellation swung her hand. A scene like a hologram floated in the sky, reflecting the images of the apostles who lived in this world. Lala. Lu. The apostles did not live in houses. They didn't have to build a city. For them, there was no such thing as hunger. They didn't need to dig up resources from the ground to continue living. The apostles sang happily anytime, anywhere, in the form of children. Kaya. However, in the heart of this world was an innocent child, stabbed by a sword. Aya. You.
Ah.
Aok. How the innocent child's scream became power, I didn't know. The sword in the child's chest was probably forging the rules of this world. The world I've constructed is far more stable than your worthless dump. The constellation shouted over the child's screams. Don't you dare show your hypocrisy to me, invaders. I followed Lafanta Ejim to countless worlds. The screams never stopped in any of them. Hundreds of thousands. Millions. Tens of millions. Hundreds of millions. The sword named Sacrifice lamented. Meanwhile, only one in my world. Only one. With one scapegoat, my apostles live a life without knowing pain. I have committed one sin, but you turn away from hundreds of millions of sins. What justification do you trash have to destroy my world? I understood. The constellation must have set this up after repeated thoughts and agonizing. And, she must have done so with good intentions. If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, this was the hell that, the evangelist of everlasting happiness, chose. This world is just an extreme example. The challenges that we face while running the tower would be no different. When food is scarce. When resources run out. As the people responsible for the tower, we will have to sacrifice someone.
Ha!
The constellation laughed at my silence. You still have enough of a conscience not to say your drivel. If you can't answer, leave. I will never recognize you as a new master. No. I have a response. I took a step forward. A response?
Ha!
What kind of response can someone like you give? It would be easy to recite the argument that sacrifice is still wrong. However, an argument was not meant to be said. It must be lived through with one's body. Only when one can take responsibility for what one says, when one can actualize the argument, is it valid. I did not forget this point. I will kill you all. What? I will kill you all and make you into ghosts. The constellation did not seem to understand me. What are you talking about now? All who die by my sword are collected as ghosts. If I want, I can summon them with all the memories they had in life. I'll be killing all of you, then summoning you to live in this world again. I raised the holy sword. You want to live happily ever after? I'll let you. A life in which you don't suffer, don't remember suffering, and just sing like you do now. I'll make it real. The ghosts don't even need to eat to live. I will give you the world that you want. It was simple. I would kill millions of apostles. After killing them, I could summon them back to this world. I would bring back their memories from when they were alive. Nothing would change. I'm not talking to you alone. The inhabitants of the tower who were watching our party at this moment. To the innumerable people watching, I made a proclamation. There are evil people who cannot be reformed. There are sinners who cannot change their minds. There are some souls who want to live again but cannot. From now on, I will execute them with my own hands. Execute. I'll kill them and bring them back with my skill. They will be banished to my shadow, and I will shoulder them forever. Suddenly, the song that had echoed on the horizon stopped. The song had shaken the sky and the ground, so when it stopped, the world became eerily silent. The constellation looked at me with incredulous eyes. Lies. All the wicked and all the souls. A mere mortal cannot. Evangelist. The utopia that you boasted about creating here? I can do the same. But in my world, I don't even need a single innocent child's scream. Before entering this apocalypse, the Black Dragon Master had asked me, "Am I ready to become a king?" It's simple. That was right. If all worlds were hell, I just needed to become a slightly larger hell. My hell is more right than your hell. This was the royal road that I chose. One royal road is, or Wangdu. Think of this as the principle that Gongja will follow as a ruler, kinda like Naruto's Nindo or Ninja Way. Chapter 123. Utopia. 2. The constellation was silent. The evangelist of everlasting happiness, whose entire body was covered in blood, quietly bit her lips. Her eyes were shaking, not with the ripples of the surface but with the shifting of deep ocean currents. The constellation remained silent for a long time. Death King. Following suit, the apostles had also stopped moving. The battlefield that had been raging non-stop from the beginning halted for a few moments. During this time, the crusader approached me. "You say you'll execute the wicked and the sinners. What do you mean by that?" From behind her, our other colleagues were also directing their gazes at me. Speculating. Dumbstruck. Or shocked. Eyes filled with different emotions stared at me. I'm being serious. I accepted their gazes calmly. I know that you all have purged people while managing the tower. This practice must continue in the dark even now. I can't tell you that your methods so far have been wrong or that you have to fix them. I don't have the confidence nor skills to run the tower better than you do. However, if you absolutely need to kill someone in the future, just bring them to me. Oh. The heretic questioner tilted his head. He tilted his head once to the left and once to the right. After the two bobs, he smiled brightly with understanding. I see. No, why didn't we think of this until now? It's a really good idea, Death King. The Black Dragon Master wrinkled her brows. What are you talking about? Think about it. Death King's skill doesn't just summon someone. It can give them their memories from life. Therefore, we can use Death King as a moving prison. The sound of the heretic questioner's distinctive laughter echoed throughout the silent plain. No need for food. No resources consumed. Say that Death King reaps a serial killer. If Death King orders him to never commit murder again, the killer is forever prohibited from killing. The Black Dragon Master's eyes slowly grew bigger, as did those of the Count and the Crusader. Despite their shock, they quickly calculated the advantages outlined by the heretic questioner. Using Death King's skills as a prison will. Yes. Ahaha. The criminals will be fairly terrified. And isn't the cadence of it just beautiful? Death King. As a king who literally jails and rules over those who must die, there's no better epithet for him. As the owner of Sangrian, I want to offer you my opinion. The Count pulled out her fan and tapped on her lower lip. It's not bad. As you may know, the tower has a significantly higher crime rate than the outside world. Our prisons are chronically overcrowded, and the cost of maintenance is high. That's right. As the master of the 10,000 Temple, I also agree. The heretic questioner grinned. An impromptu meeting of the greatest guild's leaders was being held. The purpose of a prison is to contain criminals and prevent further offenses. However, no matter how excellent a corrections program is, it's hard to stop all recidivism. A human mind is as complex as it is beautiful. But the Four Kings can completely prevent recidivism. The Crusader hesitated. I don't know. I admit that it's efficient. But I'm still doubtful. Isn't it too much of a burden for a single person to carry? Death King already lodges 2,000 people from the martial arts world, the righteous sect, and the demonic sect. He probably has people we don't know of inside, too. If he already has 2,000 people, any number above that means nothing. No. I'll withhold my judgment. Meanwhile, the Black Dragon Master was staring at my face. Several emotions were swirling in her black eyes. Will you really be all right? I felt that she felt sorry. The Black Dragon Master was feeling some sense of responsibility. The responsibility for bringing me into their world. It's all right, I said with conviction. I was grateful. She was taking responsibility even though I jumped into this world of my own volition. The Black Dragon Master was a kind and honorable person. Someday, I would hear her real name. I turned my head to look up at the constellation. What will you do? If you want to keep fighting us, I won't stop you. But the outcome is decided. I'll absorb this utopia you're so proud of. The constellation, which had been silent for a long time, opened her mouth. I am not only a fragment of the guardian goddess, but also the evangelist of everlasting happiness, with 1,000,000 apostles. If you take me, all of my apostles will follow. I must ask, is there any guarantee that you will not use my apostles as your personal army and use them for wickedness? I won't use them, I bluntly asserted. Even when you invaded Raviol's world, I summoned only the members of the demonic sect. As I killed the righteous sect, I could have summoned them too, but I did not. It would be against their morals. Those people can never obey the orders of the demonic sect's young master. Whether it be 1,000,000 or 10,000,000, I'll let your apostles live happily in this world as they have been doing until now. The constellation slowly lowered her head. When overpowered by force and logic, a person finally speaks the words bound in their heart. The constellation shaped like a child quietly murmured.
Ah.
Master Lafanta Ejim. The constellation's body began to dissipate. To meet you once again. Blood fell from the sky. The blood hit the ground, pulled together, and eventually coagulated to the form of a sword. The sword had no mouth, so the constellation could not finish her last words. The sacrifice sword awaits for you to dispose of her and speaks. However, the tower passed on what the sword wanted to say. My name is sacrifice. You can translate someone's agony to another's happiness. The nobler and purer the sufferer is, the greater the resulting happiness. I walked toward the sword planted in the ground. Then, I raised my holy sword and struck the blood-stained sword. The guardian goddess absorbs a piece of herself. The sword split apart. The existence of the guardian goddess has become more pronounced. Simultaneously, the apostles surrounding us melted down. 1,000,000 children who had been covering the whole horizon crumbled apart. The children's eyes were smiling even as they were destroyed. Shaw. As the apostles collapsed, red water flowed and the horizon quickly turned bright red. Stage cleared. Today, the 28th floor stage has been cleared. A shallow sea of blood. The Black Dragon Master looked down vacantly at the blood that rose up to her calves. Really, all you need to clear a stage is information. You can easily break something if you know its weaknesses. I was preparing to run when we fell right in the middle of the enemy. But this quickly. Huh? What? What just happened? The venomous snake, who had been dealing with the apostles beside my skeletons, was baffled. He was the only one among us who did not listen to what I was saying and solely did what he had to. Why are these guys suddenly turning into red paint? Huh? The Crusader sighed. It's nice to see that you never change, venomous snake. What's this now? You. Did you fall in love with me? Ahaha. That'd be fun, but sadly, no. The vice leader of the civil militia has been dating someone for a long time. The venomous snake's single eye widened. What? Really? Who? It's hard to say. You should find out for yourself. No one informed the venomous snake of anything else. Looking at the atmosphere, it seemed everyone else knew and that it was an open secret. I was curious and wanted to open the character window, but I stopped myself because it would be too great a violation of privacy. Hey. You finished in magnificent time. The Count came up to me and patted me on my back. I was resigned to pouring money down the bottomless pit for at least a day. As expected of Death King. Do you remember who the first person to notice you was when you were just a rookie? The Count was pleased that we had safely gotten out of the ambush. I didn't want to rain on her parade, but I didn't intend to rest like this. From the beginning, this stage was just a stepping stone. I apologize, Count. We're not done yet. What do you mean? There was an announcement that the 28th floor was cleared. Yes. We're done with the 28th floor. I nodded. But I plan to break all the way through to the 30th floor today. With those words, the Black Dragon Master, who was looking blankly at the sea of blood, the venomous snake, who had been doggedly asking the Crusader about who she was dating, and the heretic questioner, who appeared to have been thinking about the future, all turned to me in unison. Today? Within the day? The Black Dragon Master was surprised. Her tone wasn't doubting whether that was possible. The Black Dragon Master no longer doubted my ability. Rather, she was worried about my condition. Death King, no, Kim Gongja. You've been working too hard recently. You haven't taken a day off after you entered the Tale of Sormwin Academy. That would seem to be the case from the Black Dragon Master's perspective. Raviel and I mucked about and played around as much as we wanted on our honeymoon, but that was an inside joke between Raviel and me. From other people's perspectives, I've actually been dashing non-stop. Even if it's for a short while, take a break. Humans are animals that can be worn down by stress. If you don't plan out your working hours and rest time, you'll end up collapsing. I'm serious. You may not know it since you're still young, but... I smiled. It was actually lovely how she worried sincerely for others. You're right. I have been overdoing it a bit. Right? So, take a break from clearing stages for a while. That's why I'll finish everything today and take a break. The Black Dragon Master rubbed her forehead. You're not listening at all. Get some rest. Please. Black Dragon Master. The population of the tower is increasing by 100,000 each day. Even if 99% of them are good people, it means 1 out of 100 is a criminal. That means there are 1,000 more criminals in the tower every day. If 10 criminals gather, it's a gang. If 100 criminals gather, it's a mafia. When 1,000 people gather, it's a criminal syndicate. Even now, one criminal army gathers each day, and we can't continue attacking apocalypses forever. I spoke calmly. Even if it's by one day, we have to finish this quickly and return to running the tower. This is for us, for the current inhabitants, and for the newcomers. If you say that. The Black Dragon Master bit her lips. If you put it that way, how can I argue? Don't worry. I smiled and held out my fist to the Black Dragon Master. When I rest, I'll rest really well. Nobody else can rest as well as I do, probably. You'll be surprised if you come across me while I rest with Raviel. I don't want to see newlyweds acting lovey-dovey, you know. If you're really bothered about it, please help me prepare a ring later. I need to give Raviel a ring, but I'm not good at this sort of thing.
Ha!
The Black Dragon Master sighed deeply, still clutching her forehead. Fine. You need to give her the prettiest ring in the world. Really? How did I end up working with a child like this? I'm forever grateful to you. Drop it. In terms of being grateful. No, let's not talk about this. It's embarrassing when other people can see. I realized this when you started dating in Sormlin, but do you really have no shame? Even as she complained, the Black Dragon Master acquiesced to my proposal. She and other leaders of the tower knew the truth. It would be dangerous if they didn't return to the front lines of administration. They weren't just hunters who cleared floors, they were also the managers who governed the tower. They had to finish their days in the library. Transmit. Pop. After some time, we each returned to the library where hunters were gathered. They had just watched the live stream of us 6 overpowering 1,000,000 apostles. Was that why they only looked at us quietly, from a distance? There was an overwhelming gap. The authority of the top rankers was thus placed on a solid foundation. Okay. Good. This was the atmosphere I wanted. We proved our rankings not through power but skill. We also proved that we were a united team. For a while, at least, they wouldn't scheme anything troublesome. There was another being who was watching us. The owner of the great library, the corner librarian, stared at us with his chin on his hand. Welcome back. Congratulations. I thought that the stage would be more difficult, but your synergy surpassed my expectations. I didn't think you could conquer a world with a reigning constellation so quickly. Unlike his congratulatory words, the librarian's face was impassive. Of course it is. The corner librarian was an intense lover of stories. He loved seeing characters' hardships, trials, and unexpected obstacles, and their unexpected solutions. Overwhelming victory or defeat didn't suit the librarian's taste. I knew just how to lure the librarian. Character window. Characters appeared before my eyes. Plus. Name, corner librarian. Favorability, 98. Favorite genres, fusion, romance, mystery, adventure, horror, history, war, sports, SF, myth, fairy tales. Disliked genres, not applicable. Favorite characters, character, constellation killer, death king. Hated characters, not applicable. Favorite plot, story. Hated plot, serial discontinuation. Psychological state, indeed, the evangelist of everlasting happiness was a terrible match for the infernal heaven's demonic art. She wasn't lucky. TSK, TSK. Foolish thing. She would have been able to fight a bit more if she predicted the disadvantage and asked for reinforcements from other constellations. Plus. I nodded. It's there. My name was added to the librarian's list of favorite characters. Next to the constellation killer, which had been there before, Death King was added. As the librarian himself admitted, the constellation killer was the character he loved the most. The fact that my name was there beside his meant that I was almost as beloved. Librarian. Yes. What will you choose for the next apocalypse? The librarian fluttered his sleeves and smiled. If you want, I can recommend something personally. The fairy tale ended so quickly, so how about a myth this time? It's long and dangerous, but that's how unspeakably great the rewards are. Or, the character you love most is ClassRevivalHunter. I cut off the librarian's words. How do I compare to him? That's, of course. It's almost shameful to rank you two. The constellation killer and you are complete opposites in nature. The librarian stroked his chin. What should I say? If the constellation killer is like a man who bears all the misfortunes of the world. Death King, you're like chocolate ice cream. It's black on the outside, so you think it'll taste bitter, but it's really sweet when you try it. Setting aside whether that analogy was appropriate, I've chosen our next apocalypse. Which is it? The Epic of ClassRevivalHunter. The librarian faltered. You showed it to me when we went to the snowy mountain by ourselves after the chronicles of the heavenly demon were cleared. At that time, floating before the corpse of a giant dragon, the librarian had said that it was his dream to be killed by ClassRevivalHunter. With that, he showed the old leather-bound book that he had read dozens or hundreds of times like it was something precious. The Epic of ClassRevivalHunter. Even now, the book was probably hidden by the librarian's chest. Death King. The librarian raised the corner of his mouth. Yes. I know that you see the constellation killer as a rival, but the Epic of ClassRevivalHunter isn't an apocalypse. I can only send you to apocalypses, worlds that have come to an unfortunate state of suspension. The tip of his lips was trembling. The Epic of ClassRevivalHunter is still continuing. I can never intervene in it. I cannot accept your request. But I stared directly at the librarian. Don't you want to see it? Didn't you say so? To you, the constellation killer is the greatest character. And I come close to him. The master of the great library of all things. The constellation who loved books more than anyone. That was why I threw him an irresistible temptation for a bibliomaniac. A scene where your favorite characters are together. Don't you want to see it? The genre of the next stage I chose was a crossover. Chapter 124. Utopia. 3. A cruel fate awaited those who were bewitched by stories. I wasn't talking about people who simply enjoyed them. I was talking about those who were bewitched. Crazed. They fell deeply again and again, and eventually, they gave up half of their lives to stories. For them, reality was nothing but a world that could not be a story. There were no dramatic plot twists. No shocking endings. People were just people who could not be reborn as characters. Reality was a disappointment. Humans were contemptible. And above all else, they worshipped stories. Disappointment, contempt, and worship made up the true identity of those who were bewitched by stories. That was why they became fanatical when a story unfolded in real life and cheered when real people were reborn as characters. They hadn't actually lost the heat in their hearts. They were just waiting for the right moment. The final boss of all readers was standing before me now. ClassRevivalHunter and your crossover? This individual loved stories so much that he built a library himself. For certain, that's an attractive offer. The library he built was so large and magnificent that it covered a whole world and was called the Great Library of All Things, for it contained the thoughts of all creation. However, I can only offer you apocalypses. It is an inviolable rule for me. All stories have the right to end autonomously, so rashly intervening is. His lips were quivering now. He's wavering. I was certain. In the end, the librarian would be persuaded. No practical logic could convince the librarian. But the words, "Don't you want to see it," referring to the story, could tempt the librarian down to hell. You can just drop it if you don't want to see it. It was an irresistible offer. I was just making an indulgent suggestion. I could make a scene where your two favorite characters interact. But if you don't want it, I won't force you. But you actually want to see it, don't you? The librarian's complexion changed visibly. His emotions were transparent. Suffering. Agonizing. Craving for a decadent dessert, a crossover that would never transpire organically. Eventually, the librarian opened his mouth. I signed a contract with the tower. The breath coming from his lips was hot. Not all constellations make contracts with the tower. Only the constellation who sign contracts can enter. We're tenants, basically. In exchange for renting a floor of the tower, I have a restriction. What is the restriction? To provide humans only apocalypses. The librarian flailed his hand. Each time his hand sliced the air, the books that orbited around him fell to the floor. An apocalypse can mean many things, but the Epic of Lafanta-Egem is not one of them. These books had the same function as being the librarian's guards. When hunters attacked him the other day, the librarian used the power of the books to subdue them. A contract is a contract. I cannot violate it as I please. The tower, the master of the tower, will be furious. I do not want to anger the tower master. Traditionally, aren't tenants at the mercy of their landlords? In other words, the librarian was stripping himself of his weapons. Just for reference. Dozens of books were dropped. Neutralizing all the powers he held, the librarian looked at me. I actually don't have much power on my own. It's not just me. Many constellations are like that. We have special powers, but surprisingly, we're not that good at fighting. Without a book, I become but a simple, fragile reader. Well. So. You get it, don't you, Gongja? I did. I understood completely. Yes. You can't break the contract. I strode toward the librarian. The distance narrowed. The librarian was primly holding his sleeves together. With a tense expression, he looked up at me. Unless it's an unavoidable situation. I grabbed the librarian by his neck and lifted him up. It was easy. The corner librarian didn't weigh much. Though his clothes were long and thick, there was no resistance when I lifted him up. Oh. The librarian exhaled. Please be gentle when you take the Epic of Lafanta-Egem. The trembling of the librarian's lips increased. Intimidation and coercion. Though he was the master of a world and a constellation, the librarian did not fight back at all. How rude. I have shown you endless kindness until now. I trusted you. To think you would betray me like this. I'm hurt. This is why so many stories warn against trusting a human. This guy was terrible at acting. I smirked and squeezed his throat a little harder. The librarian whined. Give it to me. If you don't, I'll kill you. Pervert. The librarian's face, looking up at me, began to become shadowed. We were acting. But the librarian felt the sincerity in my voice. It was natural. If we wanted to trick the tower, the intimidation had to be somewhat realistic. Pervert? Gongja, don't you think you're being too harsh? What else do you call someone who collects a person's hair and nails? Furthermore, you said that your lifelong dream is to die by Lafanta-Egem's hand. Your wish. Is it normal to want to be killed by the character you love the most? The librarian shut up. Speaking of. If I think about it, I'm also a character you love. The edges of my lips curved up. How about it? You don't need to wait. I can make your wish come true now. Now. Do you want to die here by my hand? The librarian flinched, and his shoulders curled in. He spasmed as if he were struck by lightning. Envy and desire oozed from his upturned eyes. Little by little, very slowly, the librarian pulled something from his bosom with a trembling hand. The Epic of La Fanta Egem. It was an old, worn book that had been read hundreds of times and stained by his hands. It was the most cherished book that the librarian had in his infinite collection, the one that he carried on him. I will give it to you. The librarian presented me the treasure he valued over his own life. Well done. I didn't let go of his neck as I grabbed the Epic of La Fanta Egem with one hand. Ah, said the librarian, parting his lips. His face was a mess now. Ecstasy and self-loathing were blurred together. Plus. The Epic of La Fanta Egem. Genre, you cannot view this at your current level. Difficulty level, you cannot view this at your current level. Player limit, you cannot view this at your current level. The serialization is ongoing. Introduction, you cannot view this at your current level. Plus. Oh ho. Was it impossible to read anything about a book not authorized by the librarian? This was new information. I looked down at the librarian with interest. I can't see it, though. It's unreadable. Well, you can only see the apocalypses because I allow it. Normally, all the books here are forbidden texts. Humans cannot just read them. Then explain it with your mouth. First hand. The librarian could not refuse. It was the character he said he loved most. The librarian started sharing La Fanta Egem's history on his own accord. La Fanta Egem is. The constellation killer is from the same region as you. What? He was born in the same world, same area, and as the same race as you. Not just that, but you have the same family name. Then, the librarian said something completely expected. He lowered his gaze and murmured, the surname Egem was something the constellation killer made himself. It's a simple compound word. Though, he used the language from England instead of the one from where you were born. England? Was it English? Since it's A and Jim. Does it mean I and Kim? 1. Correct. Oh, my God. Didn't I tell you? Once is a coincidence. Twice is a connection. But the third time is an inevitability. The fates of you and the constellation killer have intersected at various points, so it can be said that the relationship between you two is inevitable. My eyes widened at the unexpected background of the constellation killer. He's from Korea? The only person I've met so far from there was the thug with the disgustingly cool ponytail. But the constellation killer came from the same place. Does this mean I'm the only sane person from Korea? I was starting to doubt the integrity of other people from Korea when the librarian spoke again. The constellation killer was summoned to another world as a child, said the librarian. At the time, the constellation killer was just a high school student. Of course, he was extremely confused when he was summoned. However, he awakened an ability in the summoned world and persevered through the perilous world. Wait. Just a moment. I was seized by a strange feeling of familiarity. Didn't I know this plot? A high school student being summoned to another world. That's totally correct. The librarian nodded slightly. The genre of The Epic of La Fanta Egem is high school student messes around in an ice guy. For short, just ice guy student. Though the constellation killer is too old to be called a high school student now, too. My jaw dropped. Ice guy? That term was as extinct as a dinosaur when I heard it as a child. Could it be? Was the constellation killer, Lafanta Ejim, an old fossil? Of course, it would be unfair to say that he simply messed around. The constellation killer suffered countless hardships before he became the first emperor of the Ejim Empire. Whenever the librarian recited the story of Lafanta Ejim, his voice turned into a glowing light that entered the epic of Lafanta Ejim. The light permeated the book, soaking into it, and settled into readable words in the epic. A long time ago, there were people who lived on top of the corpse of the ancient dragon emperor. The constellation killer set foot on the 20th floor that you now own. They wished for a hero, because there were no heroes among them. That's where he began his journey that would pierce through the world. They prayed to God. God granted their wish. It was a journey to found a country. Then, the librarian looked down at the book, which began to emit a white light like the other apocalypses, as if he were afraid. And now, the constellation killer is on the 50th floor. The 50th floor. The constellation killer was at the place Bei Hurayong had talked about. Here, there's a problem. You have not yet reached the 50th floor yet. You haven't gotten out of the beginner's area yet. And the 50th floor is higher up, it's a special place. It is strictly, seriously forbidden to send beginners to the 50th floor. His words surprised those who had been listening with bated breaths. Everything below the 50th floor is the beginner's area? But we've worked so hard to get here. I wasn't surprised. I knew for a while that the floors before the 10th floor were a tutorial. I also heard from Bei Hurayong that we would be competing with hunters from other worlds starting on the 50th floor. In other words, it means that not having to compete with hunters from other worlds until the 50th floor is a measure to protect beginners. Thinking that, I asked, when you say forbidden, do you mean you cannot send me to the 50th floor under any circumstances? The librarian's face crumpled again. That's... No. The one who sends you. If the floor administrator pays the price, it's possible. Then, it doesn't matter. Aren't you going to pay the price? At least. The librarian was close to tears. At least limit the people to just one, Kim Gongja, please. All right. Even if the librarian didn't make such a desperate plea, I had intended to face Lafanta Ejim alone. Send me to the 50th floor. The librarian closed his eyes tight. Don't regret it. I'm going so that I won't regret it. The librarian gave up after hearing my resolute reply. His jittering hand smoothed over the cover of The Epic of Lafanta Ejim. Then, he whispered in a frail voice. Death King. I designate you as a character of The Epic of Lafanta Ejim. At that moment. Warning. Abnormal access has been detected. A penalty will be given to the corner librarian. A vicious voice slammed into the inside of my head. The librarian flinched. I probably wasn't the only one hearing the voice. However, the librarian didn't stop talking, even as he shuddered. I exercise my power. Repeating the warning. A penalty will be given to the corner librarian. The librarian exhaled. I don't care. Go, Death King. And show me the image of you with the constellation killer. Whoosh. White light blinded me. Abnormal access has been detected. As my vision continued to turn white, the warnings continued to ring. Warning. The blessing given to you by the goddess of beauty is suspended. You can no longer observe others' favorability rating. The blessing given to you by the goddess of vitality is suspended. You can no longer observe others' psychological states. Then. A resident of the tower that has not been given a name enters the 50th floor. On a stage where nobody from my world has gone before. I took my first steps on the 50th floor of the tower. Chapter 125. The Demon World. 1. Kim remembered the day he first fell into another world. Congratulations! You have been chosen as the warrior who will save this world. A dazzlingly beautiful woman smiled at him. Bewildered, Kim looked at the angel before him. Though he had seen many celebrities on the news and in videos, he was only a normal high school student. It was the first time he ever met someone beautiful enough to brighten up her surroundings with a slight smile. He could only stutter in her presence. Excuse me? Angel Nim? Where is this? You don't need to rush. Warrior Nim, I am the guardian goddess. This is the name of the constellation who will protect you and guide your future days. You may not know a lot right now, but you will learn many things. So she was a goddess, not an angel. Kim felt dazed. I was definitely on the school rooftop just now. You were being bullied at school. The goddess serenely put her hands together. Young humans are sometimes like beasts in that they practice pure evil in complete ignorance. Unfortunately, Warrior Nim became their prey, and you fell because you could not endure it. Fell? Yes. To be specific, you fell to your death. Kim only remembered after hearing the goddess's words. The school rooftop. The iron door to the rooftop was tightly locked. He felt like he was being challenged when he saw that the doorknob was secured with chains. So, Kim opened the window of the 5th floor classroom and got out. He climbed a pipe onto the roof. It was a crazy thing to do. However, Kim felt alive for the first time since his birth when he clung to the pipe and crawled up. It's funny. It was the first time in his life that he climbed out a window and scaled a pipe, the first time he had climbed onto the school rooftop. He never felt anything like this when he was struggling to survive. He felt alive because he was facing death. The sky he saw from the rooftop was red. Kim felt thankful that the sky turned red once a day. For the first time, he thanked the heavens. The red sky was a little friendlier than the blue sky. He wanted to break his body against the kind color. If I fall. Kim looked down at the ground. The schoolyard basked in the sunset like the Sahara. I heard that after I fall, as soon as I jump, I'll regret jumping. Kim took off his indoor shoes and placed them down neatly on the floor. The soles of his shoes were blackened with permanent marker. He had not scribbled it on himself. Will I regret it, too? The schoolyard became loud. Maybe someone saw him. The students who had been kicking around soccer balls before their nighttime study gathered together, pointing to the rooftop from below. There were several familiar faces among them. Kim quietly moved his thumb. Press. He sent a text message that he had written in advance on his mobile. 37 students would receive his last testament. The one who murdered me was you. Don't forget. You killed me. Plus. Shortly after, a notification popped up, showing that the text had been sent. It was done. It was refreshing. Kim threw his phone. The cell phone fell in an instant to the schoolyard. It was broken. The students below became frightened by the sight of the broken phone. One person's face paled, someone whom he had sent the text to. I hope your life is ruined, too. Permanently. Kim plunged into the red, sandy desert. He thought that falling was just like failing to fly. I am the guardian goddess. Then, he ended up here. I have many powers. Idol, compassion, prayer, sacrifice, and salvation. Kim remembered the day he first fell into another world. If you borrow my strength, Warrior Nim, you can do anything and become anything. A dazzlingly beautiful woman smiled at him. What do you wish to become, Warrior Nim? You have entered the 50th floor through an unusual route. When I opened my eyes, a voice entered my head. The blessing from the corner librarian will be removed. Beginner protectionary measures will be suspended. Beginner benefits will be temporarily revoked. I smiled wryly. Just hearing the warning makes me tremble. I looked around. The first things I noticed were the spires that rose up into the sky. 5 towers twisted and stood in the distance, like a giant's fingers reaching into the air. It was weird that they weren't collapsing right now. Wow. It's been a damn long time since I've been here. Probably over 150 years? Fortunately, I had someone with me to be my guide. The Sword Emperor. He had once climbed up to the 99th floor of the tower, so of course he had been on the 50th floor before. But not a single thing has changed. Rather than looking fond, Bei Hurayong looked around at the 50th floor like he was already sick of it. What are those spires? They're magic towers. Some guys have been stuck here for over 1,000 years. Instead of climbing the tower, they just settle down and live on the 50th floor. 1,000 years. Anyway, don't go near them for now. If you can, don't even look at them. Why? Because they'll automatically detect your gaze if you look at them for more than 23 seconds. The number 23 in the world they lived in has the same meaning as 18 in your world, zombie. You fucker, what are you looking at, is what that alarm system means. KEH, can't you just tell what their personalities are like? 1. I quickly looked away from the towers. What the heck? The alarm triggers just because you look at it for a certain time? Oh, right. They used to have 6 towers, you know? But I knocked one of them down. They'll probably freak if they learn I've come back as a ghost. They'll mobilize everyone and chase you to hell, so make sure to keep quiet. Now that I look at you, you're not a guide but a troll. Damn it. I should have known it would be like this. It was then. Your body is starting to erode from the void poison. Currently, your erosion is LV.1. I was startled. What's void poison? It's saying that my body's eroding right now? Oh.
Yeah.
That exists. Man, now it feels like I'm back in the tower. Bei Hurayong shrugged as if it wasn't a big deal. It's just an omnipresent poison that flows all over the 50th floor. Who was it, again? Anyway, there was a bastard who acted as the manager of the 50th floor, and he used to fool around with the hunters he liked. Then, the Midnight War of Liberation or something broke out and he got offed. So? While he was dying, he cursed the world since he couldn't die peacefully, and that curse remained as poison. I blinked. That's totally. Yup. You remember the zombie virus that spread when the constellation of the Murim world died? Think of this as a stronger version. What? I was dumbfounded. People live here, even though it's all over the atmosphere? And for 1,000 years? Are they nuts?
Yeah.
They're nuts. But the guys who get up here have some basic abilities, whether it's aura, magic, skills, or even a constellation's blessing. What are you doing, zombie? Hurry up and use your aura as protection. I did as Bei Hurayong instructed and drew on my aura. After enveloping my whole body with the red aura, I especially made sure to strengthen my lungs. I sighed for a moment, turning my head to look at Bei Hurayong. What happens if you don't protect yourself? What then? Bei Hurayong uncharacteristically hesitated. His eyebrows furrowed, and his face seemed to reflect that he was considering what to say. You get a very peculiar appearance and state of mind. Keek. Oh, lucky. There's one now. I turned around. A toad-like monster was curled up. Kioik. However, the problem was that I didn't know any toads with approximately 36 legs or shark teeth. Also, the monster looked to weigh about 2 tons. What the heck is that? Who knows? He was probably a person much like you. A human who ate, shat, and talked.
Shh.
*T like you do. Well, maybe 20 years ago. While Bei Hurayong was leisurely speaking, boing. A 2-ton monster toad leaped forward. Anybody could tell that it was rushing toward me. I was taken aback, but I focused my aura on my feet and jumped far away. Bobby-a-bang. The ground shook. The boom was a little too brisk to say that it was the toad's fault. The ground had caved in, forming what looked like a small crater. Ah, fuck. I pulled out the holy sword and used the infernal heaven's demonic art. Schwack. The blade wrapped in red aura sliced through the monster toad's waist. Did I kill it? Ah. Bei Hurayong said suddenly. Sorry, Kim Zombie. I didn't warn you earlier, but... From the 50th floor, it's literally a world of demons. There will be a lot of times you'll get screwed if you act according to your old common sense. What are you trying to say? That moment, something sprang out from the sliced cross-sections of the monster toad. It was a leg that looked like a tentacle. Instantly, dozens of tentacles fell out, bringing the toad back to its feet. Keek. Kiuk. This time, there was not one but 2.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. What the hell? If you're scared, keep staring at the magic towers. If you stare for more than 23 seconds, they'll talk to you. Who the fuck's looking at us, and such. Then, if you ask them to save you, wizards on brooms will come to the rescue. What do you think? Aren't they nice? I wasn't just imagining it, Bei Hurayong had been grinning for a while. And if Bei Hurayong was grinning, there was a very high probability that he was messing with me. In other words, what's the cost of being saved? You've got some brains. How did you know? They'll make you sign a soul-draining contract that takes 12 years of your life as collateral. Zombie, you have SSS class skills, so you'll get a lot of love from them. How envious. Frick. Why you over there? Hurry and run away. I heard a voice calling urgently behind my back. This way. Run over here. Quickly. When I turned around, 3 old men in shabby cloaks were beckoning. Their clothes were caked with filth like they were homeless, but their eyes revealed profound wisdom. The voice was also so desperate that I almost went to them without thinking. However, I couldn't do that because of Bei Hurayong's mug staring at me, which made my mind pause. My feet stopped on instinct. Instead of running to the old men, I sent my aura at them. This way. Run this way. Quickly. As soon as my attack approached them, something terrifying happened. Jump. Something surged from the ground where the old men were standing. It was a hedgehog-like something. Why you over there? Hurry and run away. This way. But instead of spines on its back, there were 3 old men. This is insane. In short, they weren't actually old men at all. The monster's back was just a lure to draw people in and eat them. Hey, hey. As expected of Kim Zombie. You're naive, but you know how to use your head. What kind of place is this? Thinking rationally, would there be old people helping you for no reason? Kiik. Run this way. Kiuk. Quickly. A monster toad and a monster hedgehog ran at me simultaneously. Dozens of tentacles wriggled on the toad's skin, and 3 old men sang a chorus on the hedgehog's back. This sight was totally going to sully my mind. Is everything like this here? There are a few exceptions, but it's mostly like this. Welcome to the demon world, where cosmic horrors dance, Crow-tit. Now do you see how normal and sensible a hunter I am? This isn't the time. I wasn't sure if it was fortunate or not, but... Duck your head, stranger. The exception that Bei Hurayong mentioned suddenly appeared. I will cut. A voice that used aura to directly enter your head. It was the telepathy skill, sound transmission. I quickly ducked my head as the voice decreed. At that moment, the sound of wind being cut and a horrifying attack passed over my head. Schwak! 2 monster toads were bisected at once. Remembering the sight of the toad's regeneration, I panically yelled. No, if you cut it, it splits and regenerates. I stopped talking. The monster toads did not move and stayed cut. In other words, they were dead. What? Does it only regenerate once before it dies normally? No, it regenerates many times. Then, why did they die? That happened because... Someone else explained it before Bei Hurayong could. To kill one that dies in half. The sound transmission user was speaking. As its name suggests, it must be split to exact halves. Bewildered, I glanced at the corpses. As he said, the monster toads were split in exact halves down the center of their bodies. Somehow, that caused them to die permanently. Next. The sound transmission user immediately pointed his sword at the monster hedgehog. He swung. Quang. Explosions sounded each time. Despite the fearsome aura, the monster hedgehog took the hits like they were insignificant. It's like the Lady of the Golden Silk when she had the blessing. The monster hedgehog rushed forth like it was taking no damage, but the sound transmission user continued to strike blow after blow. This way. Boom. The cries of the old man on the left were buried by the explosive slash. Run. Boom. The cries of the old man on the right were buried by an explosive slash. Come here. Boom. The cries of the old man in the center were buried in the blast of the cut. A lamenter's noumenon is in its lament. The moment the sound of the old men's cries were buried in the explosions, the hedgehog fell apart like sand. So you must kill it by burying its sound. 2 types of monsters were neutralized in the blink of an eye. Extensive knowledge of the prey and the overwhelming power to utilize that knowledge. A hunter. I blankly looked at the hunter, the sound transmission user. Bei Hurayong grumbled. Man, that bastard. He's not even that old. The silver-haired youth I saw in Chinese trauma. Lafanta Ejim. The constellation killer. Lafanta Ejim tilted his head as he put away his sword. Do you know me? Bright blue eyes like newborn stars turned toward me.